Hey guys, I am back with a little project that I wanted to share with you just to show you that if you are ever scared of that blank page and it stops you from creating something, um, I'm here to let you know that there is no need for that. And I'm just going to show you my little process. There are so many different ways people do this. And on my next little board, I actually did it a different way. So there's no reason to stress. All I did was I got a large piece of watercolor paper just because I knew it was going to be sturdy and I wanted to make like a accordion book out of it. And I wanted the colors to be neutral, and then I would try to add some pops of color later on. So out of my little container of all these jelly prints that I recently made and some painted papers, I grabbed the neutrals like browns, blacks. I see some gold in there and some tan papers that I made marks on. And I just started laying it out. I tried to spread it out because I knew I was going to cut these in 3 horizontal layers to make the little books out of. And I did add the red, and that's one of the first pops of color, so I was just trying to spread it around. And once I felt I filled up the page enough, then I just started gluing things down. I knew I probably wouldn't get them back in the right place because that never happens. But at least I knew I had enough to start with to start laying down. And again, there's no stress because this is your little master board. Use the colors that you like, the papers that you have. And I get my inspiration so much from online. You have YouTube, they'll show you mark making and jelly printing. Pinterest, there's just hundreds of images. And then I just kind of get my supplies together and just get started. I can try using this stencil and that color. It gives me a point to start. And then once you start, it becomes so much easier. It's like you get into the flow. Like I think when I started with this page here, it took me a second to get into the flow of where I wanted things. And then I just relaxed and, told myself there's no right or wrong. Whatever happens, happens. It's going to be exciting once you cut it up to see all the different prints that I've used and made. There are a couple of pieces of scrapbook paper that I had that were matching in the color that I needed. So I added all that. And this is just so relaxing. I sped this up to 4 times the speed. And it's just very relaxing to just lay down and brush and glue things in place, grab a piece and like a jigsaw puzzle, where would this go? But there's no stress. And I really, really like that part of it. And especially since this is just the first layer that you're working with. You can put down the big pieces. You can make them even bigger than I did. And then start adding smaller layers on top in different areas. And you get a good variety that way. And you get your page covered. Let it dry. You give yourself some time. You come back and look. It's like, oh, that's so pretty. I can't believe I did that. And then your next step is going to be maybe mark making on it, adding smaller pieces of marked papers. The mark making could include just acrylics or high flows. It just depends on what you're going for. This particular one, I wanted it pretty plain and simple, so I just stuck with the collage. I only added a couple of marks with an acrylic marker, but you can add, dip uh, the top from any kind of bottle into black or white paint and start making circles. You can dip a fine liner brush into the paint and just do waves all over it. And once you cut it up, you have hints of those colors and those marks. And it just makes it so much prettier once you cut it into smaller pieces. I also just did one where I added the red with the fine liner and that red just really pops and adds to it. So there's so much that you can do with these. And like I said, there's no right or wrong. It doesn't have to look exactly like, like mine or whoever you're watching, but it gives you an idea to just lay things down. And it's also good, if you want to stop the video at any time and just see the pages I've done, and then get out your supplies and make pages like that. It was just a 5x7 jelly plate, and then with stencils. Most of that is. Some of it's book paper that I painted with acrylic, black and white, and that added marks later. Like that page right there that's standing up. I thought it was going to be so dark, but once you start adding the white to it and the mark making, and it could be simple scribbles, that is what makes these, grunge journals kind of things so cute. So here I've cut it into 3 pieces, and then I was working out what I wanted to use as a focal point. Now that digital sheet I did use for just the second book that I made, but this one I just wanted to use some stamped images that I did on some tea paper. Oh, and there I decided it needs some marks just to add to it. So I'm just brushing white paint onto the bubbles and just putting it down there. And it just adds so much. It breaks things up and it helps everything kind of flow together. I know there's another word for that. So here I'm just gluing down some of the images. I had hummingbirds and moths, I think. And it was just something different for me to use. But it's a subtle image, focal point, I guess, that it doesn't take away too much from all the papers that I used. And I cut up a piece of a glove there because I had a boo-boo on my finger and didn't feel like getting up and getting a Band-Aid. It worked. So I'm just making sure everything's glued down. And what am I doing here? Oh, I decided to add some encouraging words. And that's my crystal art glue. I love that stuff. It works so well on so many different mediums and thicknesses of papers and stuff. So I just went through my little box of words and pulled out things that meant something to me that day. I don't always use words because I do kind of want to just admire the paints and the marks. But you just go with the flow and you see what you feel like doing. So next, I wanted a acrylic ink border instead of just a distress with the distress oxides that we do, because I wanted something with texture and shiny. And this is just one of the easy ways to do it. It's just to put a line of black paint down and dip your edges in it. And I don't want it perfect. I want some blobs. I want some thin paint spaces. I can't even talk. And it does get a little messy sometimes. Well, I get messy, okay. Now on this third piece that I cut, it wasn't an even amount because I cut these probably 3 inches. So this last piece was a little longer, so I decided to use that to make the covers. And I had brought up my heavy-duty cutting board because it was so thick with the water paper and all the collage on it. And I just used that glue to glue the front cover and the back cover. And then I also add some acrylic paint with my paint marker because I knew it was going to be messier since I had those 4 edges to cover. And I did want to get a whole lot of black on the back side of the accordion. Normally I would have used the bone folder, but I was too lazy to bend over and get it, so I used my pencil. So that was it, just kind of making them as straight as I could. And then here I'm just showing you that I used the acrylic pen, and it's kind of cut off most of it. I'm sorry. When you zoom in on this app, you never know what it's going to show. And after I finished, I went ahead and put a book on top of it to flatten it all out and make sure all the glue stuck. And then this is how it turned out. Again, not out of focus, but cropped off. But it was just fun. I might have added some more little black dots in there, like on the back. And you can do that because it's yours. You can do whatever you like. And that is it. And that is how simple it was. I mean, just a couple of steps, and that blank page gets covered. And then you just add little things to it, little mark makings, whatever you're in the mood for. Splatters, rings, dots, whatever color you want in that particular book that you're making. And boom. And you don't compare to anyone else's work. That's the biggest thing that I've learned. You know, use their work as inspiration to get ideas. But the next day, look at your work and you will enjoy it because you're not comparing it to a video you just watched or a picture you just, try to copy from to get inspiration. And that's it. I don't even know what I was saying in this part, but basically just have fun with it and don't be afraid. So thanks for watching and happy crafting. Bye-bye.